The first time he saw her, he was sitting on the cold marble floor of St. Vincent Hospital, his head buried in his hands, his clothes wrinkled from 3 sleepless nights, and his heart cracked open like a window that refused to shut. The fluorescent lights hummed above him. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, and his phone screen showed a single, unread message from a number that would never call again. His world had stopped spinning 2 days ago when the doctor said, "We did everything we could." For Daniel Hayes, life had always been predictable. He was a structural engineer from Portland, Oregon, the kind of man who built things to last. But death was something you couldn't design around. And when it came for his wife, Emma, after a sudden aneurysm, it left him hollow. He didn't cry the first day. He didn't cry the second. But on the third, when he saw her coffee cup still sitting on the kitchen counter with a lipstick stain that would never fade, he broke. He sold their house, quit his job, and packed whatever fit into his old Ford truck. He started driving, not knowing where, just away. Somewhere between the highways of Montana and Wyoming, he stopped feeling alive. He would pull over by empty motels, stare at his reflection in bathroom mirrors, and wonder when exactly the world had gone colorless. Son, if you believe in kindness, healing, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Hopeful Stories. Every click helps us spread hope to those who've forgotten it exists. It was in late October when Daniel's truck broke down in a small town called Cedar Falls, Idaho. It wasn't much more than a dot on the map. One diner, one gas station, a library, and a main street where the leaves danced like confetti in the wind. He sat in the diner corner, nursing a cup of black coffee, watching the steam curl like lost souls in the air. That's what she walked in. She wasn't extraordinary by the world's standards. A young woman with a paint-stained sweater, hair tied messily in a bun, and eyes that looked like they had seen storms but chosen to stay gentle anyway. She ordered pancakes, smiled at the waitress, and laughed softly when the syrup bottle slipped from her hands. For some reason, Daniel couldn't look away. There was something about her, a kind of light that didn't blind but warmed. When she noticed him staring, she tilted her head with a teasing grin and said, "You look nervous." And before he could stop himself, before his grief could censor his soul, he smiled for the first time in months and whispered, "Because you look like hope." Her name was Lily Matthews. She was an art teacher at the local community center, known in Cedar Falls for turning broken things into beautiful ones. Chipped mugs into mosaics, rusted tools into sculptures, and old canvases into sunrise skies. There was a quiet power in her, the kind that didn't demand attention but healed whatever it touched. When she spoke to Daniel, it was like she wasn't trying to fix him, just see him. And after months of being invisible to the world, being seen felt almost holy. Lily learned that Daniel was drifting. No home, no purpose, just miles of silence behind him. She invited him to the community center one afternoon, saying, "If you stay still long enough, maybe your heart will catch up to you." He didn't want to go, but something about her voice made him. That afternoon, surrounded by half-finished paintings and laughter from children smearing colors across paper, Daniel felt something shift. He picked up a brush and painted for the first time since high school. He didn't paint landscapes or portraits, just shades of gray turning into pale blue. Lily watched quietly, her lips curved in a smile that said she understood. Over the next few weeks, Daniel helped fix things around the center, shelves, broken tables, flickering lights. Each nail he hammered, each board he replaced, felt like mending pieces of himself. He'd catch glimpses of Lily painting by the window, her hair catching sunlight, and something deep inside him began to thaw. One evening, as the town prepared for its winter festival, Lily asked him to help her set up the lights along Main Street. Snowflakes were just beginning to fall, and the world glowed under a soft orange sky. She told him about her brother, how he'd died in a car accident years ago, how she had stopped painting for months afterward, and how one day a stranger had simply told her, "The world still needs your colors." She said she painted ever since, not to forget, but to remember. Daniel listened, his breath fogging in the cold air. And for the first time, he talked about Emma, how she laughed at his bad jokes, how she loved the rain, how she had dreamed of opening a bakery one day. His voice cracked halfway through, but Lily didn't say anything. She just stood beside him, close enough that he could feel her warmth. Cedar Falls had a way of holding people gently, of giving them space to breathe. Slowly, Daniel found himself staying longer. He rented a small room above the bookstore, started helping around town, even joined the weekend art classes Lily taught. The locals began to recognize him. The quiet man with kind eyes who always paid for someone else's coffee when he could. But grief has its own rhythm. Some nights it came back like a tide, unstoppable and cruel. Daniel would wake up sweating, reaching for a hand that wasn't there, drowning in memories of what he'd lost. On one of those nights, he found himself sitting outside the diner again, staring at the stars through tears. He didn't notice Lily until she sat beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought maybe you'd need this," she said softly. He looked at her, his voice trembling. "I keep thinking if I move on, I'm betraying her." Lily smiled sadly. "Maybe moving on isn't betrayal. Maybe it's carrying her love forward so it doesn't die with you." That night, they didn't speak much after that. They just sat together in silence, 2 broken souls learning that healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. As winter deepened, Cedar Falls began preparing for the annual Festival of Lights, a celebration of community and remembrance. Lily suggested they create an art installation for it, something that symbolized hope. Daniel hesitated at first, but eventually he agreed. Together, they built a sculpture from metal scraps, broken glass, and old lanterns, a rising phoenix with wings that shimmered under light. It stood in the center of town like a promise reborn. On the night of the festival, as people gathered under the snowfall, Daniel looked at what they had created and felt tears sting his eyes. It wasn't just a sculpture. It was everything he'd been afraid to feel: grief, love, loss, rebirth, all forged together. When Lily switched on the lights, the phoenix came alive, glowing in 100 shades of gold and blue. The crowd clapped, but Daniel just stood there, overwhelmed. And then he heard a little girl's voice ask her mother, "What's that bird called?" The mother replied, "It's hope, sweetheart. It always rises." Daniel turned to Lily, his heart trembling. And for the first time since Emma's death, he smiled. Not out of politeness, not out of habit, but from somewhere real. Lily met his gaze, her eyes shimmering, and he whispered, "You look like hope." Months passed, and Daniel began rebuilding his life. He got a job designing structures for the town, new benches, a playground, and even a small art studio for Lily's classes. They spent long evenings painting side by side, their laughter echoing through the halls. Sometimes he'd catch her humming softly, and he'd realize that maybe love doesn't end. It just changes form. He still visited Emma's memory often, not with pain, but with gratitude. On her birthday, he placed a small painting of the phoenix by her grave, a note attached that read, "You taught me to build. She taught me to heal. Together, you saved me." One spring morning, while walking by the riverbank, Lily stopped and asked, "Do you ever wish things had been different?" Daniel thought for a long moment before replying, "No, because if they were, I might never have found this. Found you." The river sparkled like liquid glass under the sun, the air filled with the scent of wildflowers. Life had found its way back into him, quietly but completely. Cherry Blossom, if this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Hopeful Stories. Every interaction helps someone out there find the courage to heal. Speech balloon before you go. Tell us in the comments. Do you believe hope can find you again, even after everything feels lost? Daniel Hayes never planned to stay in Cedar Falls forever. But as the years went by, he realized that sometimes home isn't a place you're born into. It's a place that finds you when you've forgotten how to look. And in that little town, with Lily's laughter in the air and the phoenix shining every night in the square, he learned the greatest truth of all. You can't rebuild what's gone, but you can build again on love, on memory, on hope. And sometimes, when you least expect it, hope walks in wearing paint-stained clothes, smiles at you, and says, "You look nervous." And maybe you'll smile back and whisper, "Because you look like hope."